This is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to the Voice for Fitness Professionals podcast, where I share programming, marketing, and promotion strategies that are easy, enjoyable, even fun, so you can create a business and a life you love. This is all about speaking. How important is it to your business? How can you do it? And how can you do it well for the results you want? And my guest today is 40-year fitness business owner, operator, Tom Durkin. Not to do a book review as we normally do, but we'll be back with another book review soon, and I'll link to a few prior episodes here. Today, Tom's here for a different reason. He speaks often, and this is one example of how you too can do it. A podcast counts. Tom's been one of the biggest influences of fitness in the state of Iowa, with multiple business locations in multiple cities in Iowa. Uniquely, he's anything but a silent partner. He's operating general manager. That means during the course of a day, he'll lead management meetings, nursery meetings, hire and train personal trainers, work in the membership office, sign employees' paychecks, approve ads, make public appearances to any number of groups, including the Chamber of Commerce, large corporations, small businesses, to grow the membership and help people. He has over 300 employees and thousands of members. He speaks. So, Tom, first of all, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking a break in your speaking gig. But looking back over 40 years, how valuable has public speaking been in growing your business and your brand as the go-to fitness guy or the fitness gym?
Yeah, it's extremely valuable. I would say it's essential in today's market, more so now than when I started 40 years ago, because of all the stuff that's online, which, a lot of is not reliable or doesn't have good sources. And so to be able to stand up in your community in front of local groups and share your message and your passion and your conviction, and they can see you and put a name and a face, and they can feel you and hear you, is really impactful. And it's not so much probably, Deborah, with the person that's really into fitness, because he or she, they're going to exercise no matter what. But the market that I seem to talk to a lot are the really deconditioned, are the people that have not exercised for a while, or have some type of medical issue, or they think fitness is just too expensive, or personal training is just too expensive. And so to bridge that, standing up and having a conversation with them and letting them know how important it is and how they can get started, and making it easy for them to get started, it has really been a big part of our business. And each year it seems like we get more and more requests, which is great. And so it has been a valuable tool. And I would recommend to all your listeners that if they're not doing this, that they start preparing to do this, because it will pay big dividends.
So just now you mentioned you get more and more requests. Who is requesting?
Oh, all types. You mentioned at the top of your show, Chamber of Commerce, Rotaries, local businesses, local bike groups, all different sorts of retirement homes. I mean, there's just a lot of opportunity out there if you want to go out and have conversations with people about your passion and fitness and the importance of it. Now let me back you up a little bit. You have to be good, because, your reputation is going to precede you. So if you go in and talk to a group, you've got to have your act together a little bit if you want to get invited back. And probably the best way to grow your business is through word of mouth advertising, pun intended. And so people talk. So especially in, a small state that I live in, is that, so if you're good at it and they believe you and you're sincere, you'll have many requests.
So I've got a question for you, just in terms of logistics, because I think this is really important. I've been in this situation a lot of times. when people are asking you to speak, when we're talking about quote unquote, be good, all right, at it, there's, all kinds of people have all kinds of judgments of what would be a good speaker or a good presentation. Are you asked to speak about this, about X, Y, and Z? And what are those topics, if so? Or are you just asked to come in and do a presentation and get them going, get them motivated? What are you asked to do?
Both, all the above. Sometimes we are asked to come in and talk about the importance of exercise. What's the benefits of exercise? Why should somebody exercise? Or sometimes they're asked to come in. They know the benefits of exercise. It'd be pretty hard not to know the benefits of exercise. But, they're the guy will call me and say, my group's just not motivated. They have a lot of excuses. Can you come in and overcome the excuses? Can you explain to them, how to redo their schedule so they can make time for exercise? Sometimes, we get specific requests. They want us to talk about heart disease, for instance. Maybe there's a women's group that want us to talk about heart disease or stroke, or we get requests for strength training. We get multiple requests. And so, we try and take our conversations and cover the topics that they want covered. But on most of our closes at the end of the day, the message is the same. And we try not to give them too much data. We have to have enough data to be credible, so they understand that, it's not just my feeling, that there's data out there to back up what we're saying, whatever our subject matter is. But at the end of the day, you've got to reach them. You've got to touch them. They've got to feel your sincerity. And it's got to be a conversation. It's not a speech. It's not a presentation. I mean, if you go in there as an actor, you're a phony. And they're going to smell you, see you as a phony. And no one likes that. And so you just got to be you. And you got to be authentic. And when you just lay it on the line, they feel that, and we've had good success with that.
So let me come back to this. You've got 300 employees, some in the position you were in when you began speaking. So when people ask you to speak, are they asking your business? They're calling the business, or are they calling you? They want you.
Yeah, I think they're calling me.
Tell me why.
I'm sorry?
Tell us why.
I go after them. They know what they're going to get. I mean, I don't pull punches with them, and they can feel my conviction, because it's not an act. And I'm not afraid to show my feelings, let them see exactly how I feel. And I talk directly to them. I don't look over them. I look them right in the eye. And we talk about the elephant in the room. We talk about why you don't want to do it. Fear. You're out of shape now. Money. Time. What we talk about, all the things that no one wants to talk about. I don't gloss over anything. I think it's disrespectful and a waste of their time and my time. So it's just a conversation. It's just think of talking to your best friend in the kitchen, and think of what you would say to that person. If you cared about that person and you wanted to have that person change their behavior, what would you say and how would you say it? And if it was important to you, how would that come across? And that's what I try and do every single time. So they may disagree with you, but they certainly know your position, and they know you believe in it from the bottom of your feet to the top of your head.
And I would venture to say that, given we can hear your voice, any listener can hear your voice. You come through with a little energy, a little passion about what you're talking about. And I would imagine you probably do that when you're in front of a group of people. So even if it's a little awkward or uncomfortable, or they feel like, oh yeah, he's talking to me, at the moment, they remember it. And there still is something a little entertaining about the presentation.
Well, you get two groups. Here's how it goes. You walk into any room, and when I'm talking about exercise and fitness, I mean, just think of America. America's out of shape. Obesity is the killer. Heart disease is still the number one killer. If you're talking to 30 people, the data tells you 15 of the people you're talking to are going to die of heart disease. That's the data. Now take a look at them. They don't look very healthy. So this conversation is awkward for them. And you are correct. I come in with a lot of energy in my body language, in how I move on the stage, in what I say to them, and how much I smile, because I'm trying to affect them. I'm trying to get them to change years and years of bad decision making, bad attitudes, into something positive. And so, we think of all humans, and they're operating at a certain level. And I think we all could operate at a little bit higher level. And that's what we're all striving for. That's what I strive for every day, to operate at a higher level. And so you've got this dream or this aspiration of who you could become. And I think part of our conversations is just to imagine or dream what you could do, what you could become if you felt better, if you took care of yourself. And so it's that picture painting, and so the message that you give them can't be overwhelming. It's got to be simple. There's got to be a takeaway. There's got to be a tipping point in this thing where they know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, you think of the greatest speeches in your lifetime since you've been on this planet. There's 5 or 6 that probably resonate with you that you remember. And that's one sentence. You don't remember the time. You don't remember the date. You just remember who gave it and what that person said. And that's sort of the conversation that we try and have with them. And now we try and give them examples.
Okay, hold on.
Go ahead.
You're saying we. Who's we? Are you meaning
I'm saying
you?
me personally, but I'm saying if we send someone from our staff out, we role play this with our staff. We set up criteria, if you will, a template as far as this is the points that we want to cover. I mean, it also has to get done in a timeline, you don't have all day, and so you've got to move pretty swiftly through this. But, there's a lot of data on exercise and fitness, and most people don't care about it. You just need enough data to gather their attention. And then we try and give them analogies based on their business. If we're going into a business, for instance, we try and give them an analogy based on their business, or maybe we try and tell them a story if it's a Chamber of Commerce group or if it's a ladies' lunch group or something. We try and give them a story or an example that touched us. A lot of times when I go to have these conversations and go to these businesses, I got 15 other things going on. And I've got to focus as I walk through the door. So I've got 30 seconds as I'm walking down the hallway before I get introduced. I'm ready to focus. And maybe I've got all kinds of employee issues or business issues going on, but I got to bring it together right now. So I personally go into my memory and think of something that will lift me, that will drive me when I have this conversation with these people, that they will feel it. And that works well for me. And so, it's just, you got to have your conversation, or if you want to call it a speech or presentation, we can call it that. But I like to just say it's a conversation, because I don't like someone doing a presentation for me or doing a speech to me. I want somebody just to talk to me and explain it to me. And it's a two-way deal. We love to have the people in the audience ask questions or get involved in the conversation, because it goes much better. If you're sitting next to a coworker and a coworker says, well, I agree with that, or yeah, I've tried that and that's worked well, that really helps your conversation and get your message out. So, in today's, with all these websites and Facebook pages, when you go talk to these groups, you should be able to research your group prior to walking in there and have it figured out what their interests are, what the mission of this group is, who's involved, the average age, the gender, the income. A lot of information about the group you're talking to. So to give them analogies based on something that will resonate in their business or their group is really easy anymore. Or to tell them a story. It is hard to turn on the TV or pick up anything and not hear some story about disease, sickness, whatever. So you tie those things together and you give them some data. And now they're seeing you, feeling you, hearing you. You're animated, like you're saying. You bring some energy. You bring conviction. It pays dividends. So,
okay, let's talk about a presentation or a conversation, if you like to put it that way. But I'd love for you to tell me what you personally do. You have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end to a good presentation.
Right.
So how do you lay that out? And if you're going to lay this out successfully, and you're used to giving presentations, I mean, we all know a TED Talk is 15 minutes, and sometimes that's what you get to do a corporate pitch, right? So,
correct. Yeah.
And sometimes you've got 45 minutes. So it should be able to expand and shrink to the time that you have. But what would you say? Do you have a framework for, what do you start off with? What's your beginning? What's your middle? What's your end? And we'll follow up here with, you're making an offer. I mean, that's one of the reasons we all want to get in front of somebody is to grow your business. You have to make an offer. And how do you weave that into what you're doing?
So I think the beginning and the end are the most important. So in the beginning, we get there early. We survey the room.
You do.
I personally, not every single time, but I'm saying if we're going in there, and you are correct, the purpose is of the conversation to move our business forward, meaning make money. I want to walk out of that room with either more members or more personal training that day. I want to get paid that day. So I am prepared that day to accept your credit card, your check, or your American dollar bills. Every single time, without exception. So in the beginning, we get there early, we survey the room. And the reason we survey the room is we want to see how close we are to the audience. We want to see the layout of the chairs or the tables or wherever they're sitting. We want to know if there's going to be food in there because that'll be a distraction for us. We want to know if there's windows in there because people walking up and down the hallways, people will be turning their heads, looking away. We want to know if the lights will be lowered or if it's just an off or on switch. And we like to greet the people coming to our presentation, we'll use it, as they walk in the door. Prior to that, we like to survey their website and their Facebook page, and we like to put names with faces. So for instance, let's just say you're going to ABC Company, and ABC Company just awarded on their Facebook page, George has been with this company for 15 years. And you recognize George walks into the room because you saw his picture last night on Facebook. We like to shake hands, acknowledge that, break the ice with people right when they walk in. And so we get them seated. And depending on the audience, we have two openings. If I think they're not paying attention, and I think they're not taking this very serious, or if I think it's a mandatory meeting that the boss or the company makes them come to, or it's a lunch meeting and they've got food in front of them and the food is going to be more important than I am most times, I tell them a serious story. I tell them a personal story about something that maybe happened in the fitness center, an injury, or a story of recovery that will kind of snap them into real life. Because most people never think it's going to happen to them. So if they are paying attention and they come in and there's no food, I try and tell them a funny story. I try and give them an example. I was on a trip or something, and I give them an example. I like to get them to laugh. I try and be animated, and I try and let them know up front that I'm going to talk very sincerely to you, straight from the heart. This is not polished. This is not super prepared. If you have any questions, jump in. But at the end of the day, I've got a message for you, and we want to get somewhere. So, we try and sometimes you get 45 minutes, you're right. But usually at about 25, it's dead. There's no more information I can give them in 45 minutes than I can 25. It sort of loses momentum. So we probably usually don't push past 25 minutes. And so we do our opening, and then we go to the middle of it. And the middle is just the data to give you credibility about the importance of exercise or fitness. So all our presentations or conversations are about the importance of exercise, about getting your butt moving, making better selection, better choices, hiring a professional, hire a trainer, buy a membership and hire a trainer. Everything is about movement, 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 and it's about right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you get paid. None of that. It's now. And so we go through the data, but the data is boring. And everybody already knows it. I mean, I asked this question. Raise your hand in here if you know if anybody had a heart attack. Raise your hand in here if you know anybody had cancer. You ask those two questions, every arm in the room has been up. Okay.
Okay. Do you follow that with raise your hand if you know exercise prevents those?
Right. And so what's the option? So, right. So the biggest thing, it seems to me, the two biggest excuses that I always get, it's not anymore, Deborah, that exercise doesn't make sense. Everybody agrees that it does. That's not the problem. It's these other excuses. I don't have time, or I can't afford it. Those are the two objections we have to overcome. And so in the middle of our conversation or speech or presentation, we try and cover that. And maybe that lasts, 8, 9, 10, 12 minutes. And then we go into the close. So it's a 3-step process: an opening, a middle, and a close. And the close, I go right for the throat. They know it's coming. They know I'm going to ask for money. They know I'm going to make an offer to them that there's an incentive for you to do it right now. And I tell them right up front, here's my fear with you guys. You'll make another bad decision. You haven't made it yet. What's going to motivate you? Money? That's your deal? You don't have enough money to exercise? Well, you better not get sick. What do you think costs more money? Staying healthy and a personal trainer, or going to the hospital? Anybody want to guess that one? Everybody knows the answer. So if you're already broke, this would be a great investment, wouldn't it? This would be the least costly. This pays the dividends. So we offer an incentive to them to do it right on the spot. And usually we have about a 30% closing ratio right on the spot. We then give them like a week, maybe 7 days or 10 days max. We don't go too much further than 10 days to join. After the 10 days, or to take advantage of a special, after that, it's off the table and we never bring it up again. And so you've got to push them. But if you're not willing to push them, don't go into the room. You got to believe 100%. You have to be credible. And they've got to know you're just telling them the truth. And they've got to see it, feel it, taste it, hear it, and it becomes part of them. And then giving them incentive financially to do something now. Like I tell everybody all the time, and I say, you know what, if the worst thing you ever did in your life, Mrs. Customer, here's the worst thing you can do. Let's say you buy this membership and you don't get results, or you don't like it, and you quit. Anybody can quit. You can go right back to where you are now. You're already sitting on the couch. You're already doing nothing. You're already watching hours of Netflix. How's that working out for you? Not too good is the correct answer. Now, these are actual lines from our conversation. This is not for this podcast. I say this every single day with this much intensity and with this tone. Not everybody wants to hear it. But if you want the truth and you want to make a difference This is how you have to come across, because that plate, that fear, and those excuses are strong. And what I'm suggesting to you is, after 40 years in this business, we've talked about this. The first day I went to work, heart disease was number one killer, and 40 years later, it still is. We're losing the battle. So weak conversations, weak presentations, not going to help.
Great quote right there. All right. So just to recap for listeners, and correct me or add to this, but so in your offer, making an offer at the end, you're offering some kind of financial discount.
Correct.
Or reward. So rather than adding value, you're discounting the price, right?
On the membership, not on the, it depends. I mean, if you're talking about personal training, I mean, the 25th session just takes probably more work than the first session in personal training. So on the membership, we discount it. We've got an adjoining fee and an enrollment fee. We discount the upfront costs. We do not discount the monthly fees. We discount the one-time fee that you pay up front. And so you've got to build enough value. You know, I'm always amazed. So a lot of people will come up with excuses, and they'll say, I don't have time, this, that, and other thing. And a lot of times the person that's saying that is deconditioned and really needs to exercise. And you're looking right at them. And a lot of times I'll look at their hand and I'll see they've got a wedding ring on. And I'll say, have you been fortunate? Do you have children? Oh, yeah. Do you want them to exercise? Of course I do. Do you want them to be healthy? Of course I do. Do you want them to have good habits? Of course I do. Where are they seeing that at? Are they seeing that from you? No. Do actions speak louder than words? Yes. Let me ask you again. Now, that's an awkward conversation. That's the elephant in the room. You got to be willing to go down that street.
Right. Okay. So let's go back to the summary. So in the offer, you're offering a discount. The other option would be to add value. You're also doing a call to action, so there's a sense of urgency. Anything else that you throw in at that point that affects the offer for them?
Well,
that improves your odds.
Your timeline matters a great deal. So when I'm in the room, there's a better financial incentive while I'm in the room than there will be when I walk out the door. We will extend some type of offer, but it will not be as great as the one when I'm standing here. So I tell them, so if they get involved right now while I'm standing here, it's the best. And then we'll say, this will go away in 10 days.
Good. Okay. So common for listeners out there, if you don't already do this, when you've got a program launching, I do the same thing online. So I'll do an early bird and then that ends, but there's still time before the program begins. There's a next level, but it's not that juicy offer that was there before. That's gone. Now they can get in at this middle range, and then it'll actually go to regular rate for the last, 4 or 5 days. So you can't do it backwards. Otherwise, you really mess with those people who got in early, right? But you give them, those fast action takers, the break right away. So I've got a question for you. So you can come in strong. You, and I know this, we've talked about this in prior episodes of the podcast. I mean, you've done CPR on people, you've held people in your arms and couldn't do anything. So you've definitely acquired some stories that, a younger trainer or newer trainer could be also this is their second career, not necessarily a young trainer, but a newer trainer may not have those stories. How would you suggest they go about bringing in some emotion at the beginning?
That's a really good question. You are right. One of the advantages of my conversations is I'm old. And in doing so, I've had a lot of life experiences. And so I have had tragedy where I wish I could have done more and was not successful. And that bothers me a great deal. And so I can use that to my advantage. If you're a younger trainer and you haven't been through some of those things, you need to find something that moves you. I think I read somewhere, and I don't know, 50% or 40% of the population is afraid of giving presentations or speeches or conversations. And I'm sure I was years ago also. But my belief in my cause was so great, it overtook my fear. And so, maybe you've had a friend, maybe you've had a friend who had an illness, or maybe someone in your family, a parent or an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent who maybe could have made better choices, or maybe made some choices with exercise or fitness, or a neighbor or someone who's made astounding changes to their life. And in doing so has impacted their whole family. And if you can find something like that, it really seems to bring more awareness to it, to your presentation. And also, I just think you'll be more authentic. So you do have to search a little bit. And if you stay in fitness long enough, and I hope you do, it will not be very long where you will have a whole pocket full of stories that you can use in these presentations.
Okay, so more than one trainer or even young owner trainer may be listening and can resonate with your message and still be thinking, I wish I could do that. I could never do that. I could never come on that strong. I could never use those kind of words. What would you say to them?
Why? What the hell are you doing? I would say, what the hell are you doing? You want to change my life and you're afraid of a few words? I would say, if it's just your passion, this one, it goes back to the kitchen. If this is your passion, believe in it wholeheartedly. And I've worked with a lot of trainers, and they do believe, and this is their passion. But you've got to stir them a little bit to get them to tell you that. I've had many conversations where maybe a trainer has got mad at me over something, and we've had maybe a heated conversation. And in that heated conversation, I'll feel his or her commitment to their craft. And I love it. And even when we're talking about something else, I'll say, what'd you just say? And he'll come back, or she'll come back and repeat that sentence. And that's the core message that you want to get out with that much drive. And so you don't have to use my words. This is how I believe. But you believe similar, or you wouldn't be in the industry. You know this is important. This is life-altering stuff here. And they called you in there to alter their life. They didn't call you in there for information. They already have the information. They want to be motivated, inspired, and moved. That's you. That's what you signed up for. So go for it. If I was your client, and I came in as a client and you're my trainer, and I gave you 50% effort or 40% effort, I would hope to God you would sit me down and say, what are you doing? How do you expect to get results when you're not even putting in 100% effort? I would say the same thing to you. Find what stirs you. Find an analogy. Find a story. And practice. Now, do not go in there unprepared. Practice. And don't just do it in front of the mirror. Take 4 or 5 of your buddies, sit them down, give them a quarter every time, and give them your temp sheet, give them your presentation, and do it in front of them. And let them tell you what your body language is telling you. Let them analyze you, and take that feedback and write notes, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again, and do it until when you walk into a room, if somebody flips the switch, you're on. You're on. Boom. If someone automatically pulled you out of the audience and said, get up here, what's your story? You should be able to go. And you'll make a difference. Now, that's going to take some work. That's going to take some effort. But again, we're back to the first where we came in. That's your passion. I've never walked out of a presentation and thought I wasted my time unless I didn't get my best effort. And when I look out into that audience and I see people that I know need exercise like they need oxygen, it is my job and my mission to try and make them healthier. And I am not doing the service that I was brought in there if I don't tell them the truth.
Great presentation today. Thank you. And I also want to remind listeners that, for a lot of first timers, or, I think it's universal truth that getting in front of people and speaking, public speaking, is one of the most feared things we have. So when we really break that down, it comes down to confidence, and when you think about confidence, you may think, what? I'm confident. I'm really confident. But we're only usually confident in the areas we're already good at. And then we avoid the ones we're not good at because we lack confidence. And it's a vicious cycle, right?
That's right.
So the best way to gain confidence is to get better at something. And the only way to get better at something is to do it. Even if it's badly, or even if it's in front of that group of peers first badly, in order to get better, to take one little thing, make this little change, make that little change to improve it. So in the show notes today, I'm going to add some different ways to build confidence, some speaking resources, so you can learn a little bit more about how to give a presentation. But one of the first things I'd encourage you to do is to start speaking in front of your own mirror, in front of a peer group you trust. And maybe it's easier for you to do it in front of strangers, but start and realize that today and going forward, there are still groups. There's nothing more powerful than face-to-face, you to many, one to many in front of a room where they can actually see you, hear you, and pick up if you're it for them, you're a good resource and you resonate. But there's video, there's webinars, podcasts, there's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Instagram TV. And as silly as they may be, if you're using those platforms and you're not using video, you're wasting your time and wasting an excellent resource, because that too is speaking. And if anybody's watching you and they keep tuning in, you probably have a customer right there waiting for you to make an offer. So start getting used to that. And listeners, if you have a question that we didn't cover, we didn't ask, leave it below the show link at fitnessmarketingmastery.com/speaking. And I'd so appreciate it if you'd leave us a rating in iTunes. Check out today's show notes for more on developing confidence around speaking and resources you can use, along with the blog and other podcast episodes at fitnessmarketingmastery.com.